afternoon, everybody. I'm Grant Fluff from Fletcher Sports Zone. And today, oh boy, today we get to dig in. We get to dig into probably the most embarrassing Jaguars game I have seen since we lost 30-14 to the Rams in the 2021 season. I have sat through, this is my 11th year as a Jaguar fan, and God, good gracious, have I seen some horrible teams. None have been as disappointing as the 2024 team I am currently watching. But before we get into my ranting and raving and yelling and, God, maybe swearing, goodness gracious, please go check out GridironNerds.com. GridironNerds.com is a weekly NFL blogs and trivia website. I am a writer. I cannot wait to write my article on why the Jaguars need to fire Press Taylor, all of that garbage, but it's all right here. You can see weekly blogs, weekly trivia. Someone just wrote an article today that the Panthers need to bench Bryce Young, and they did, in fact, just bench Bryce Young about an hour ago for Andy Dalton. So you can see all that and more on GridironNerds.com. Again, that is GridironNerds.com, as you saw on your screen. Go check them out for, again, weekly NFL blogs and trivia. All right, let's just dig in. Advertisement's over. Let's dig into this. Holy SHIT. This was brutal. This was the worst offensive performance I have seen out of the Jaguars since Trevor Lawrence's rookie year. You could pick the Rams game from that year. You could pick the Patriots game from that year. You could pick the Tennessee game that year, the game before Urban Meyer got fired and we got shut out 21-0. You can pick any of those. Don't matter. This was the worst offensive performance I have seen from this team in about 3 years. They lost 18-12. I have nothing for this one. The Browns just bullied us all game long. That is just the name of the game. 18-13, was the final score. This was awful. This was egregious. Where do I begin? The fact that Trevor had 15 passing yards midway through the third quarter. We made Deshaun Watson look like a player we haven't seen since his 2019 Texan days. Him and Jerry Jeudy. It didn't matter if Amari Cooper was getting targets or not. Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore were killing us. Oh, man. The worst thing happened. The worst. Man, because I was completely unaware watching last week's game that Tyson Campbell was going to be put on the IR and out for 4 weeks. I was also unaware that Darnell Savage and Evan Ingram were both going to be last-minute inactives. Evan Ingram pulled his hamstring during practice, during warm-ups, 30 minutes before the game. And Brenton Strange, for the second year in a row, is showing why Luke Farrell is a better backup tight end than him, because he was so on and off yesterday. I'm not going to lie, last week against Miami when we lost, I kind of had a whole script for this thing. I had stuff I wanted to talk about. I just want to ramble today. This was embarrassing. So again, Cleveland, they drive down the field right away. Jacksonville cannot stop a third, 4th and 1. The Browns are putting in Jameis Winston to do QB sneaks, and he's handing the ball off, and they're utilizing their backup quarterback. Run to the outside. Jacksonville can't read it. Now, I'm not saying this is Ryan Nelson's fault, because it really wasn't. Jacksonville really stepped up in the second half and played a great defensive game. But, oh, my God. Xavier Howard is still a free agent. There is zero excuse why Jacksonville shouldn't sign a player like Xavier Howard right now. They already passed up on the opportunity to get Justin Simmons. Dude, we can't roll out there every week until Tyson Campbell is hurt. We can't roll out there with Darby, Brown, Jones, who's a rookie, the rookie out of Florida State, and Trey Flowers. No. We cannot roll out for the next 3 weeks with Ronald Darby being our best corner. No. We need to desperately get a corner. Xavier Howard's the best available. Get him now. He should be trying out right now as I'm filming this video. Oh, he's 29. He's washed. I don't care. Would you rather have Ronald Darby or Xavier Howard? If your answer ain't Xavier Howard, learn ball. Defense struggled mightily in the first half. And Cleveland's offensive line was injured. And they did something that most teams have not been able to do the last 2 years. They shut Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker down. Walker was silent. At least Josh Hines-Allen eventually got a sack in the third quarter. Whew, Trayvon Walker, you couldn't find him on the side of a milk carton. He was invisible. Have you seen this man? He's gone missing. Speaking of gone missing, Christian Kirk. Oh my gosh. I have been preaching for the last 3 years that Christian Kirk has been the wide receiver one on this team. It's Brian Thomas now. 2 games in, Brian Thomas, amazing. He had a splash play in both games thus far. He's been amazing. Great route runner. He only had 2 catches. He had 94 yards, but he only had 2 catches. Why aren't we getting our receivers involved? Gabe Davis did nothing. Again, second straight week. Gabe Davis, very underwhelming. Christian Kirk, not getting separation. Again, he's probably playing through an injury. I know he was last week. Oh, my God. Just stay healthy, please. Tim Jones, I mean, all he does is freaking whiff on special teams tackles, so I wish Elijah Cooks would get playing time. If I'm being completely frequent about that, I think Tim Jones needed to be cut months ago. Our special teams play has really taken a dip since Andrew Wingard's going to be out the first, 6 to 8 weeks. So our special teams really taking a hit. No Agnew, no Wingard. So it's taken a step back mightily. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about today. Poor Cameron Little, who was very good against Miami. He had a 52-yarder last week hanging at halftime. He missed his first career field goal yesterday. And when Jacksonville was trailing by 3 with about 2 minutes left, damn, like that 3 points would have meant everything. Trevor probably doesn't get sacked for a safety late in the game. And they aren't stuck throwing a Hail Mary on the last play of the game going for the touchdown. Instead, it's a field goal. When Little walked out there, it was a 40-ish yard field goal. It was like a 40-ish yard field goal. And pretty much it was rainy. It was the rain was off and on in Everbank. And unfortunately, the one time the Jaguars really had a chance to kick a field goal, they just blew it. It was only attempt of the day. That wasn't an extra point. Goes out there, hits it. It looked like it was going to be good, but I think because of the wet turf, ball slipped, bounced off the post, and bounced out. No good. Unlucky break for Jacksonville. And again, this is when the offense was sputtering. This was before ETN got the touchdown, before Brian Thomas had the huge play. That was the drive that Trevor had the 33-yard run, which really gave Jacksonville momentum. The Jaguars' offense was lethargic. Trevor had the 30-yard run. Crowd was erupting. And then they go conservative on the play calling. And this is what I've been saying for the last 2 years. Press Taylor, listen, I know he's followed around Doug Peterson pretty much everywhere. But, I mean, holy crap. If Doug wants to stay past week 18 this year, he's got to fire Press Taylor. Or he's just got to demote him something. Maybe not even fire him, but demote him. This is horrendous. The Cleveland Browns last year had a top 5 run defense statistically in the league. On first and second and goal, you're just going to say, oh, hand off to ETN, third and goal. Oh, I know it's a great idea. Have Trevor throw a rollout. No, and more no's. Let Trevor in shotgun, two-step drop, throw to the end zone. This is why Trevor was so efficient in 2022. They weren't scared of calling plays. They let Trevor throw the football. They are not doing that this year at all. And then when Trevor gets time to throw, he gets sacked. Numerous times Trevor was getting sacked today. Before the half, they threw a screen pass that went nowhere. I mean, oh my goodness. It's just the play calling was just egregious. All around, it was bad. Is it panic time for Jacksonville? I mean, you would be a fool to say it's not. I mean, you think we're going into Buffalo week 3 and winning? I sure as hell don't. There's no way. There is no way you could convince me we are walking into Buffalo against an undefeated Bills team on the road on primetime and winning. You know what's going to happen? Trevor's going to throw a nice 40, 50-yard pass to Brian Thomas. They're going to get in the red zone. First and goal, handoff, ETN, nothing. Second and goal, handoff to Tank Bigsby, nothing. Third and goal, Lawrence takes the snap under immediate duress, throws it out of bounds. Oh, well, maybe the red zone offense would be more efficient if Evan Ingram was in. Need I remind you, it took you guys 13 weeks before Evan Ingram scored a touchdown last year? It was week 13, the Bengals game, where he scored his first touchdown. Didn't matter if he set a franchise record in receptions or not. Ingram is very efficient. He will catch passes. He is not as great of a red zone target as he was in 2022 or the back half of 2023. They didn't really throw to him in the red zone at all during week 1. And again, he was inactive. And I mean, clear night and day difference between Evan Ingram and either Brenton Strange or Luke Farrell. Clear difference there. I'm not going to lie. Pros, cons, players that impressed me, players that didn't impress me. Again, it was nice to see Josh Hines-Allen get a sack. Devon Hamilton looked very good as well. The D-line in the second half really picked up the slack, and they were playing well. Monteric Brown wasn't awful. Again, he's kind of just – he's getting an increased role now that Campbell's injured. But most of the players today were invisible. ETN didn't do a whole lot outside of a couple of runs. Cisco, I know he got injured last week, but Cisco didn't really impress me a lot this week, unfortunately. Ronald Darby's again, just whatever. For Cameron Little, sucks that he missed his first field goal, but I think he's going to be fine. He should still be the kicker of the future. He looked very great in the preseason. I'm not going to lie. He looked very efficient. I'm not worried about that. I think that kick was just because, of course, it was rainy conditions. Luke Farrell gets a plus. Devin Duvernay wasn't horrendous on special teams, but, I mean, something's got to give. And next Tuesday, I'll definitely try to find time to talk about the Bills game because I think this is when we can start talking about, all right, well, if we can't beat Buffalo, we're starting off the year 0-3. Don't matter. And I know Jaguar fans are like, well, the Titans and Colts are 0-2, and so are the Bengals, and so are the Ravens. And, dude, don't matter. It don't matter. Like, I worry about where my team is. I don't worry if the Ravens are 0-2 and so are the Jaguars. Oh my God, we're just as good. No. In a 1v1 game, if we were playing Baltimore next week, they punch us in the mouth and win by 32. Like, is that what you want to see? It doesn't. And the Bengals just lost to the Chiefs. Like, come on. With very questionable officiating towards the end of that game. So the Jaguars these last 2 weeks, they've been beating themselves. And that's what makes it so frustrating because they realistically should be 2-0. Okay, maybe 1-1. Miami definitely should have been a win. Cleveland, I can chalk this one up as a loss because they clearly were the better team for the first literally 3 quarters of this game. It wasn't until Trevor had that run to put him inside the 15 where Jacksonville's offense felt like a threat. They were just beating themselves, and they're beating themselves because of poor play calling. Poor play calling. Trevor's not having enough time to throw. Trevor's trying to throw for the sideline. Receivers are dropping it. Brenton Strange had a bad drop. He tried to toe drag, and I think the ball just bobbled out of his hands as he fell out of bounds. So that ended up falling incomplete. I mean, just overall, the offensive execution isn't there. And, people are going to point at Trevor. And, I already had a couple of my friends here in college like, see, can you finally admit Trevor wasn't worth it? I'm not going to say that yet. right at the moment, he doesn't look worth it, but I want to give him the full year. Hey, listen, even though Cleveland dropped a couple of interceptions yesterday, Trevor Lawrence, right now, is the only starting quarterback in the AFC South that has not thrown a pick yet. So, got to count for something, right? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. His completion percentage is currently going to be at his worst. But, I mean, again, I blame that on offensive line. Antoine Harrison went down. Oh, God, if our starting right tackle gets hurt. Hopefully Antoine Harrison's all right. I think he returned, so he should be all right. But, yeah, I mean, this is a Bills team that, heading into next week, this is a Bills team that's they might be injured and battered and bruised, and they might not have Stephon Diggs anymore or whatever. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. This team is still a wagon. And the run defense, I mean, if you are letting James Ford dash you, Jeremy Ford, excuse me, if you're going to let Jeremy Ford run for 20, 30 yards on you, then, I mean, James Cook's going to have a field day. Cook had 3 touchdowns against Miami. Say what you will about the Dolphins and, Tua got injured in the game. Let's not pretend. When Tua got injured and left the game, Buffalo was still up 31-10. Like, let's not kid ourselves. That game was over regardless. Buffalo did their damage. They picked off Tua 3 times before he left with an injury. And they also came back against the Cardinals in week 1. The Cardinals were kind of punching them in the mouth a little bit in the first half. Buffalo quickly scored a bunch of touchdowns in the second half, pulled away, and won that one on a defensive stop. So there you go. It's either, you come out sluggish like you did against Cleveland and you're not catching up, or you start off on fire like you did against Miami, but then the offense begins to sputter and Buffalo's just going to come back and win anyway. So guess what? You're screwed. Unless you score or somehow pitch a shutout, you're screwed. Now listen, I know the Jaguars historically own the Bills. I'm not going to lie. Last year, before the London game in week 5, I was very confident. I said Jacksonville would win that game, and they did. I was super confident in that team. In 2021, it was a nice surprise seeing the Jaguars beat the Bills, even though it was 9-6. Don't matter. It was a nice surprise to see them win that game. I mean, I'm going to say it. I think Buffalo wins next Monday by at least 21. I'm going to be honest. I think we're looking at like a 42 to like 17-ish like blowout. I'm sorry, but the rug is eventually going to get swept under you. And Buffalo is going to be the team that I think everyone really considers, and hopefully everyone in the front office considers, wow, changes need to be made. I was seeing Instagram post yesterday about like how sad the Doug Peterson era is gone and how did we go from beating the Chargers in one of the greatest playoff games ever to this? I'm going to tell you why. He is too connected with Press Taylor. That's what ran him out of Philly, and that's what's going to run him right out of Jacksonville too. Listen, like I said, I am on year 11 of being a fan of the Jaguars. The previous Jaguars head coaches I have seen, Gus Bradley, Doug Marrone, and Urban Meyer. Those are 3 pretty horrendous coaches. And Doug Peterson's clearly the best of the bunch. And as he said last week, he is the best coach this franchise has had since Jack Del Rio in the early to mid 2000s. But, I mean, oh my God. I mean, it comes to a point where enough is enough. I'll put it to you this way. The Jaguars' last win was in week 17 against Carolina. The last win we have had with Trevor as our starting quarterback was that game against Houston. Oh, the kick is no good. The Jaguars beat the Texans. Wow, we're the 1 seed for 3 hours, even though Kansas City won later in the day, and we're the 2 seed. How do you go from being the 2 seed in the AFC to a laughing stock in about 10 months? Ridiculous. Oh, but the Colts and the Titans are also 0-2. I don't know why you're happy about the Titans being 0-2. Because it is clearly showing Will Levis is not that great. Why are you happy about the Titans being 0-2? They're going to draft their franchise guy in the draft And there's a lot of good quarterbacks. Deion Sanders' son, Carson Beck. Oh my goodness. Dylan Gabriel. I mean, remember, guys, I have a college football podcast now. Jackson Dart, I pay attention to these guys. Quinn Ewers. Why are you happy that Tennessee's doing so poorly? They're going to draft their franchise guy. And you know what that means? Every team in the AFC South, theoretically speaking, has a franchise quarterback. Anthony Richardson didn't look like it yesterday, throwing 3 interceptions. But his arm strength is still out of this world. And he is still a deadly weapon because of his arm and his speed. Don't matter how inaccurate he is. He's got talent. He can make plays happen. I'm worried. And if you're a Jaguar fan, I'd be worried too. It's only 2 weeks. You're overreacting. And guess what? If we beat Buffalo, I mean, is the season back on? Is it just a fluke because Doug Peterson is 2-0 all time against Sean McDermott? What's the deal here? Okay, if we beat Buffalo, great. Do we smash Buffalo and we're the ones winning by 3 possessions? Do we escape off a game-winning field goal? Does Josh Allen have the worst game of his career? Is this the game where Trevor Lawrence finally breaks the 400-yard passing mark for the first time in his career? I don't know. But all I'm going to say is right now, you look at how you just look at the last 6 quarters of offensive playing. You can't tell me this team's good. This team is splash plays on splash plays on splash plays. This team lives and dies by Trevor Lawrence and his play action passes. Oh, haven't you heard that before? Yeah, I've been saying that for the last year and a half. I mean, short passing game is not there. Medium passing game is not there. The long passing game is. But Brian Thomas is going to get exhausted. I want to see Brian Thomas do more than just catch 40, 50-yard bombs once a game, and then we don't utilize him at all. Oh, we're in the red zone, time to throw to Davis and Kirk a bunch of times. No, don't do that. Again, I don't really know what the direction is for Jacksonville right now. All I'm going to say is the next 2 games are Bills and Texans. You can't really look ahead, but that's the only thing I can say is we overlooked Cleveland because they looked so poor in week 1, worse than us, which was shocking. And they just wanted to play Buffalo. Okay, well, guess what? It didn't backfire. And if you lose to Buffalo next week, it's probably too early to fire people. But, Brest Steelers got to go. That's been known since last year. They got rid of the DC instead of the OC. I would have been fine if Mike Caldwell stayed another year. Not that Ryan Nelson is terrible, but I would have been fine if Caldwell stayed another year if that meant Taylor was the coordinator to go. But on to week 3, I'm going to call it a death march because I think we are about to witness a slaughter live on ESPN. So I want to hear your thoughts, Duval County. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think there's still a chance that this team could compete for a wildcard spot? I'm going to say no. Not only did you start the year off 0-2, but you lost to Miami and Cleveland. Those are 2 teams that are going to be in the wildcard hunt all year round. Those are not bad teams. I'm going to say right now, no. But then, if you beat Buffalo and Houston, you're 2-2, you beat 2 elite teams. Maybe the season's back on. But I am not. But right now, I don't have any confidence in this team. And it's not that I don't have confidence in this team. I think the defense could realistically hold Buffalo to only a few scores, but this offense is going to struggle mightily. And I don't want to watch this Bills game and think of it as like a funeral for the Doug Peterson Jaguars era. I want to watch this game and I want to say, even if we lose, I want to say, wow, we went out there and we gave it our best. Just like what we did in 2022. Even in the games we lost to Washington, to the Giants, those games that we lost, they were close, man. They were like, oh, we're right there. I want that. I want that team back. And I was saying this to a couple of my friends as well. That 2022 team destroys this current Jaguars team. Oh, easily. Because that team had heart. That team had grit. That team didn't know when to stop. Now the Jaguars currently, they don't know how to start. I mean, if I see a third straight scoreless first quarter, I am not going to be happy. That's all I'm going to say. Against Buffalo, key to the game, you got to attack quick and you got to stop James Cook. And those are the two things I'm worried that they won't be able to do. But we shall see what happens next week. Jaguars, again, dropping this game to Cleveland, 18-13. Offensive line was a wreck. Trevor in the short passing game has been a wreck so far this year. I just want to talk about some positives, and we shall see if that happens next Monday or not. Jaguars playing again a week from today, 7:30 on ESPN. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.